With Blue Link Plus, you can access your Hyundai Tucson Limited remotely. Doors unlocked, temperature set, lost car found.
There it is.
Get complimentary class-leading Blue Link Plus. Call 562-314-4603 for complete details.
If you're in the market for investment-worthy bags, watches, and fine jewelry, Rebag is the answer. Rebag is a luxury resale marketplace where each piece is carefully vetted and verified by experts to ensure quality and authenticity. If you're in the market, use Rebag to buy and sell finds from the world's top brands, including Hermes, Chanel, and Cartier. Head to Rebag.com to get 10% off your first purchase with code REBAG10. Shop today at Rebag.com. That's REBAG.com. And use promo code REBAG10 for 10% off your first purchase.
Welcome to the PowerCat Podcast, GoPowercat.com's Kansas State Athletics Show. Now, here's your host, GoPowercat publisher, Tim Fitzgerald.
Welcome to another edition of The Insiders. Tim Fitzgerald, Brien Hanley, then down at the bottom. Not that I'm judging, not that I'm saying they're lower than us, is Glenn Kinley and Tim Everson. We got a kind of a hodgepodge of lower thirds on our screens. I'll fix that while we're all talking. Guys, that was a fun game to watch if you enjoyed dental work. Of course, we're recapping Kansas State losing at Oklahoma State 29-21. It was just awful. Brian, I'm going to get into it. You brought it up, and it was on my mind. Guys, that was the softest K-State football performance I've seen in a very long time. And soft is the word I have chosen particularly. I just thought they had no desire. They didn't want to be physical. They looked entitled to victory. That was what Texas does, not Kansas State. Brian.
100%. You're absolutely right. I thought it was just what you said. It was a soft football game. We didn't come out with any fire, didn't want to tackle, got pushed around both sides of the ball. There's a lot of things that you can say. I'm not going to go into everything because they'll throw me off the airwaves. But the bottom line
would be here for too long. Yeah.
It's just that was a bad football game. And all the way around. I mean, it wasn't coached well either. So, as much as we want to bag and rag on the players, and they deserve it, it was a poorly executed, poorly coached. It was just a poor football game from Kansas State. I don't think I've seen one that bad since maybe that debacle against Arkansas State, maybe, or the blowout against Iowa State. I don't know, but it was bad. It was bad.
Tim, you were there.
Unfortunately.
Was it worse in person?
It definitely wasn't fun in person. It was weird because the vibe going into the game, they had a nice crowd there because they always do. But you could tell that, no one was particularly excited, coming into the game, Oklahoma State fan-wise. So it's not like there was really even a vibe about the game at all. It was just kind of I don't know. I mean, it almost felt like, okay, we got to go to this game. Let's go to the game. Let's do this. And then neither team was playing particularly well. I mean, Oklahoma State fans are excited that they're playing slightly less crappy than K-State is. But
and that's all it took to win.
And that's all it took. Yeah. That's all it took. Would not make my list of top 5 favorite road trips.
I just realized I have the wrong header up. There. Now we're right. My God, I'm out of control. I've got so much going on here. We were live.
Servers, the logo on the side. I'm all over the place.
Maybe if I put in more than 3 seconds of preparation for today's show, I would have gotten it.
No,
that's not what I'm about. Glenn, I'm sure you watched the replay. Have you developed a drinking problem since watching that replay?
It was painful. I mean, I was covering high school football on Friday night, so I had it on a little bit, but didn't really watch it a ton. And then I wanted to make sure I knew what I was talking about, so I watched it back, and it was hard to watch. The problem is not that K-State lost to Oklahoma State in Stillwater. And not that K-State lost to a bad Oklahoma State team in Stillwater, but they lost to a bad Oklahoma State team in Stillwater that played very poorly. Oklahoma State didn't play good. It's not like Oklahoma State came out of the bye week and we said, well, this is just a different Cowboy team. They actually look really good. These guys are going to win 5-6 more games. They looked like what they looked like the weeks before. They didn't. They maybe threw a few different plays and the quarterback maybe ran or something, which we didn't expect. But it wasn't like they came out and looked a ton better than they had looked in previous weeks. That fourth quarter truly felt like both teams were begging the other side to win.
Yeah,
like, I don't want to win. Would you please win? No, I refuse to win. And one of my coworkers is an OSU alum, and she didn't even rub it in my face at all because she's like, I don't even feel like I can. Like, we look so bad. I don't even feel like we won. It's like you guys just lost. You know, it's like, and I'm paraphrasing there, but it was ugly. And it would be one thing if Oklahoma State came out and beat them, but it felt like K-State played very poorly and still had every opportunity to win the game late and just couldn't capitalize on any of those mistakes. And it was frustrating. And I think that would probably sum up I think Will Howard was frustrated after the game. I think Chris Kleiman was just disappointed. And I don't even mean just in his guide. I think in himself and in his coaching staff, he just seemed bummed out. Like, man, that was not good. He said it. He goes, we're not a good football team right now. He didn't sugarcoat it, and I appreciate it, but he didn't even seem frustrated as much as just disappointed. It's like when your parents, when they say, I'm not mad, I'm disappointed. That's what it felt like Chris Kleiman was saying after the game. And Will Howard was unhappy, as he should be. They said the right things post-game. They took responsibility, but my goodness, they got a lot to clean up.
So, Brian, you've been around this football program for more than 25 years since arriving in Manhattan in 97. There's one simple truth, no matter how much success Kansas State has had in the past or will have in the future, at Kansas State, you can't take anything for granted. Yes. You can't assume anything. One of the hallmarks of K-State athletics when it's successful is the guys leave it all on the field, or gals leave it all on the field, because that's the K-State way. That's what you do if you wake up every night or every morning and you got to go milk the cows or, go do whatever. I'm not an ag person, but it's kind of the culture of K-State. You just get to work and get it done, and you don't complain and you don't take anything for granted. Brian, I feel like this team took winning for granted after last year's success, and they forgot why they had success last year is they didn't take it for granted. They worked their asses off.
Absolutely. I think that's part of the problem here is that, and maybe some of the media, myself included, maybe we're part of that problem, telling them how good they are.
Yep.
But my problem is they are good, but that doesn't mean that you still don't have to work hard. That's what the best teams always do. Yeah, we're good. We know we're good, but we're still going to outwork you. And that's what the best football teams, or just the best teams in any sport, that's what they do. And I believe that K-State has forgotten that and thought, okay, well, we'll just turn it on. We'll just turn it on. Well, I'm sorry. Look, as good as K-State is, they're not the type of team or have the type of athlete that just are going to turn it on and go out and beat somebody. That's just not who we are. We've never been that. You go out, you work during the week, you get as good as you possibly can, prepare, and go win the football game. And that's not what happened. They just thought, okay, well, we had a bad first half or a bad first quarter or a bad play. We'll just go to the next play and we'll just flip a switch. Yeah, they're not flipping a switch. And quite frankly, unless they get back to work and figure out the root of that problem, they're not going to be able to flip a switch this season.
Brian, to me, I don't want to say this is the worst loss of the Chris Kleiman era, but this is by far the biggest gap between what we think, how good we think the team is, and how they played. There was times since Kleiman's got here where they've gotten beat badly and played very, but maybe that team wasn't that great, or maybe they were banged up. This time, it feels like on a scale of 1 to 10, you might have a team that's 9 and they played like 2 or 3, and we haven't seen that. We've seen them get badly. We've seen them, they're just not that good. We haven't seen them play this poorly when we feel like the potential is this high. The discrepancy there between what they can be and what they were on Friday was larger than I've ever seen.
Well,
going
and
off
the
that,
one thing
Clint,
about go ahead. I'm sorry.
no,
Tim.
you're fine. I was going off that. I'm looking it up because I was curious. 5 times since Chris Kleiman has taken over, K-State has been a double-digit favorite and has not covered the spread. 4 times have been losses. 2 of those times were Arkansas State and Tulane. And I feel like you can kind of throw those out. The third was the West Virginia game from Chris Kleiman's first season at West Virginia, and then Saturday. And so, it may feel, an 8-point loss to Oklahoma State doesn't feel like, well, that's not a terrible loss. But really, when you kind of look at how it kind of shapes up, it does kind of rank up there as one of the more puzzling losses.
Yeah. And what I hope that doesn't happen, because this can happen with teams. Now, look, we've talked about how strong the locker room is and all those things. But look, losing a game like this, the way that they lost it, it only takes a little bit to creep in, just a little bit to seep in and kill a locker room. So I'm hoping that the guys understand that, and say, hey, man, we got to stick together. We got to fight together. We lost this together, and we got to stick together and fight, because, again, you get just a tiny bit of either doubt or dissension, and that'll crush a locker room. It'll crush it.
Okay, so in the non-pandemic seasons, right? I'm throwing out 2020 because that was so wacky anyhow. Chris Kleiman is a 1-4 coming off weeks. 1-4. Brian, it seems to me that it's time to do something different. I will ask him about that, or I'll make Tim do it on Tuesday at the press conference. Whatever they're doing isn't working. And I noticed is that because we had a press conference during the off week, we didn't talk to players, but we did talk to them the following Tuesday, and they all talked about all the cool stuff they did. They went home, they sat around, played a game. I feel like they're losing their momentum from the season. I feel like you can give them a physical, an opportunity to relax physically, maybe take it, less strenuous on the practice field, but mentally, I feel like they took a vacation and then tried to come back. And I do this on vacations. When I come back, I'm pretty useless. Well, I'm usually useless anyhow. I'm more useless after vacations. I just don't feel like they were engaged in any way in what needed to be done. They didn't seem to execute whatever the game plan was, failed, and the coaches didn't get them into new stuff. Just nothing went right. And I think it started the entire week before the game, Brian.
Well, look, there's a way to do it. I mean, Coach Snyder had a way to do it. Other coaches had a different way to do it. You can work your guys and get them mentally prepared and still give them the weekend off. Right. That can happen. You can work your guys all week and have a tough practice on Thursday and then just say, you guys got the rest of the weekend, but we're going to come back Sunday night or Monday and we're going to hit the thing running. So there's a way to do it and still have your guys engaged and still have, because a lot of people look forward to a bye week, look forward to maybe going home if they haven't been home in a while. So I understand all of that, but there's a way that you can keep your guys engaged, and whatever's going on isn't working. And look, I'm never going to be the guy that says, well, you got to do it the Coach Snyder way. I don't believe in that, but I also believe that if you're 1-4 after bye weeks, I also believe that you can't continuously do the same thing, expect a different result. I know that.
And it feels,
whatever's happening,
and Brian,
it doesn't work.
And it feels like Kleiman talked a lot last week during the bye week or a couple weeks ago, I guess I should say, about the development of some younger guys and how they use the week more reps for some of their guys that could be redshirting or that could end up playing a little bit. And I think get the impression, I could be wrong, I'm not in the locker room, I'm not in the practice, I don't know. I get the impression they use that bye week, developmental week, and then use the game week as a normal game week. And that's good unless your opponent those 2 weeks to prep. And now you've them one normally, and Oklahoma State prepped for you for 2 weeks because they needed a win. And I could be wrong. I get the impression that's kind of what happened. And I wonder if in the future they're going to have to say, that's great, we want to develop guys. And K-State takes a ton of pride in developing guys, and they got to do that. But we can't wait till Monday of the game week to start looking at Oklahoma State or whoever it is that we're playing off the bye week. My next idea is just to talk to Andy Reid. Andy Reid that never loses off the bye week. Just Call them up. What's the secret?
I mean, I hear what you're saying. I agree wholeheartedly. I believe that's probably what happened. But look, there's a day that you can have on that Monday, have an entire practice of fundamentals, an entire practice. That's all you do. You don't have to put any game plan. You don't have to run any team prep. Just do all fundamentals. If you want to get your young guys fundamental reps, that's when you do it. I go, but when you start getting later on in the week, you have to start prepping for the football game. You got to get your guys back into it because, look, guys that are playing are wanting that week to relax, and you want to get them rested, but it's a football season. You can't relax. You just can't relax.
Nope, you can't. Tim, I stayed back on this one. I'm not going on the road right now, and there's some advantages to that. You get to see the game a little bit better because you actually have replays and you can rewind and do all that stuff. But what you don't see is the stuff away from where the camera would be pointed. And that would be kind of the body language, the approach, what you saw in warm-ups, what you see from Will Howard throughout, while they're lining up or going out on the field. Did you notice anything out of whack early on in covering this game?
No, I mean, aside from the fact that, that Jacob Parrish didn't make the trip. Yeah. I mean, that was kind of the earliest sign that things were going to be maybe different than we originally thought. But aside from that, I mean, everything seemed relatively normal. But then kind of the first sign that, like, well, wait a minute, they go out for that first drive. They win the toss. They choose to receive, and they go out, and for the first time all season, they stall out and they go 3 and out to start the game. And then it felt like from there they were pretty much stuck in the mud until Will Howard broke that 70-yard touchdown run, and things never really kind of got up to a speed that was conducive to them actually coming back and winning. But as far as like sideline stuff, not really. Things felt relatively normal.
Yeah, I just can't explain Will Howard, Brian. He played with such confidence last year when he shouldn't have had confidence, but he knew he was a good player. He came out and played like an elite quarterback at times. Even when he had problems at West Virginia or against Alabama, maybe a little bit there, you didn't see his confidence give out. I thought his confidence just melted in this game. It's like, I can't make these throws like I did last year. 3 interceptions is unacceptable, but boy, that pick right before halftime probably decided the game.
It did. And let's put all the cards on the table. Will Howard has not played well this year.
No.
That's the whole thing that people, I don't think they just want to say because we won some games. He had some good stats, but you shouldn't be throwing those interceptions against Troy or SEMO. Now, SEMO, I guess he got hit. I get that, but you shouldn't be throwing those kinds of interceptions, and the way that he's doing it, forcing balls where guys are absolutely not open, it just almost like he's panicking. Oh, I'm just going to throw it here and maybe my guy will make a play. Well, no, they're not. And the other teams are making a play. And it was the epitome on Friday. It's just bad decisions. Now, here's the thing. Will Howard played lousy. He just did. But my question is why? Why did he play bad? And I don't think it's all on Will Howard on why he played bad. And that's my whole thing about this was a poorly coached football game. Because we put the kid in position to throw the ball that many times when you knew that he was having an off day. And look, I know the running game didn't get 500 yards rushing, but when you figured out a way to run the football, and they did figure it out, they didn't do it enough. And they kept throwing it and kept going back to the run game. I'm like, I get that you're not going to get 10 yards a carry, but if you get 4, take the 4 and go to the next down. And we wouldn't do that. We just wouldn't do that. I thought there were opportunities to run. Look, the run game got shut down early, but once we figured it out and, hey, we got to run the ball with the quarterback. They don't have enough guys to the line of scrimmage. Or, hey, how many times, and I know you guys saw it, how many times did they have 4 or 5 guys in the box? And I said, check to a run play and just run it. I go, I don't care if it's 3rd and 5. Just check to a run play and run the football. And if we don't trust our senior quarterback to be able to do that, that's a bigger problem.
Yep. Glenn, this has been marvelous because you keep freezing. And sometimes you're in really awkward poses. I tried to screenshot one, but you moved right as I took it. You don't have the best connection, but this team just didn't look like they were even understanding what Oklahoma State was doing at times. They just couldn't grasp what was happening, and it seemed to spiral on them, and the confidence all went. But look, when your senior quarterback is playing that way, I know people want to make a quarterback change and let the freshman have the helm here, but I do feel like maybe a possession off might have helped Will Howard. Gather yourself, young man, because if this guy makes the plays, he's going to keep playing.
Yeah, I think a couple things. Brian, when you're talking, you said he just hasn't played well this year. I think Will Howard would be the first guy to tell you that. So I don't feel bad saying that because I think he knows that and he owns up to that. Second thing I would say is we talked about maybe the coaches didn't put him in the great spot. He didn't get any help from his receivers. He really didn't.
Geez,
there were
totally
drops. Yeah. We get to that. We don't have to right now or whatever, but there were drops. There were guys running routes, maybe half-heartedly. I don't know if we want to have the Phillip Brooks conversation, but when I rewatched the game, that was my biggest takeaway. He looked bad, and I don't mean to be mean or call anybody out. He had a really rough game. His receivers didn't help him at all. Fitz, what you talking about, getting Avery in there or not, Kleiman post-game said one of the reasons I think they didn't, because it was such a loud, crazy road environment night game, they were using, I think, so many signals for play calls and audibles and everything that they were doing that maybe it was a little complex for a true freshman to get in there. And the other thing I did want to clarify, he said we thought about going to Avery or something like that in the postgame press conference. And I think most people assume this, but I want to be clear, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think he meant we're going to bench Will. He meant we thought about putting him there for a few a few snaps and giving Will a break or just a change of pace type of deal. He didn't mean we thought about sitting Will down for the game. Anyways, I don't know if that would have hurt or helped. I don't think it would have hurt. The offense just couldn't get anything going, so it couldn't have made it much worse. No. But yeah, it was a game of miscommunications all over the place. There, two of the picks, it looked like Phillip Brooks and Will Howard just weren't on the same page, and he was route than Will thought he was apparently. You had the 4th and goal where they went for it, and Hayden Gillum snapped the ball when Will was ready for it. I don't know what happened there, but the offense, there was probably nobody that played great on the offense. Trayshawn Ward looked okay in his return, I guess, but that's about it.
Didn't play enough, if you ask me. I thought he was better suited for this game than. Yes. I thought DJ Giddens was perfect for UCF because they can't tackle, so he could run through those tackles. But I thought Trayshawn Ward's elusiveness was more suited for this game, and he just didn't see any action. Tim, as you slowly fall out of frame, there you're back. The receivers suck. I'm sorry, I said it out loud. They just aren't playing very well. They can't be counted on. Yeah. Keegan Johnson has been a bust so far, whether it's injuries or between the years. I don't know. At this point, who cares? I mean, you got to get more from the receivers. You can't be a passing offense with receivers that don't compete for the ball, don't run routes hard, don't let the defense know, well, the ball's not coming to me because I'm just going to jog now. You can't do that crap, and they're doing that crap.
Yeah, and I at the end of the day, I think that probably the solution is try new guys, get some of those fresher faces out there, and guys like Jace Brown, guys like Trey Spivey, people who are actually going to want to try if the ones that are out there aren't going to. I don't know. It is puzzling. It really is, because going into the year, you would have thought that Keegan Johnson is going to be the best thing that we've seen at receiver at K-State since Tyler Lockett.
I loved him.
Just by the way that he talked up. And that had to have been true. So many people said it. So I just don't know, if it is injuries, why is he playing at all? If it's not, then what's happening? Because it makes no sense.
I agree. Brian,
go
Go ahead.
It was hard to watch, and there were plays with Phillip Brooks specifically. There were plays where maybe you expect a freshman or a redshirt freshman to make this a 6th-year senior. There was a play where Will ran the RPO and he had to push him in the back and say, "Please block for me." And somebody said that was an effort thing on social media. I think he obviously thought they handed the ball off to the running back. So it's not that he didn't want to block and he just didn't know Will had the ball. But you should be blocking. What if DJ Giddens or whoever it was went through the line and got there, and now you're jogging to the sideline, and the guy that you were supposed to block runs to the middle and makes a tackle that makes it a 3-yard gain instead of 15. Whether it was the route running or the blocking, it wasn't just Phil, but it was just mistakes that you don't expect those guys to make. Right. And then Will, like we said, Will wasn't on the money. But the few times where he did make good plays, sometimes they were neutralized by poor receiver play.
God, the look on your face right now is great on this frozen screen. It's fantastic. Brien, the defense, in fact, I got to screenshot that. Yeah, there we go.
Is it still like?
Yeah, you're still frozen.
Brien, turn my Wi-Fi off.
The defense, how do I want to say this, was passive. They didn't line up and attack Oklahoma State. They kind of sat back in soft zone or soft coverage and let Oklahoma State. They made Alan Bowman look good.
Yeah.
And Alan Bowman, I mean, it's kind of like me. It takes a lot to make him look good. And his numbers at the end of the day were not great, but he was able to get enough done through the air as K-State just kind of seemingly watched it happen. It was painful.
Well, I mean, and look, I get that you're 2 corners down and you got guys out there that aren't used to being out there. But at some point in time, they got a scholarship to go to Kansas State University. So at some point in time, they were in a position and played at a high level. Well, go out there and play at a high level. I don't care that this is your first time on a football field as a cornerback. Stop giving guys 10 yards of cushion and backpedaling when all they are running are slant routes. And you're just giving them, it's unbelievable. And as much as I blame the players, because sooner or later, you got to have some pride and just say, I'm going to stop letting this happen to me. And what are the coaches looking at? Can a coach get and say, hey, get up in his face, stop letting this happen. Do this, this, and this. I know you're nervous. I know you're scared, but you can play football. That's why you're here. Just have that conversation with them, man, and change the dynamics of what these kids may be thinking out there, because you could see it on their face. They were scared to death. Well, that's where the coaches have to come in and say, hey, look, you got this. Okay, stop giving them this. Make them do something different. Cut off a route. Go up and make a tackle. Be physical. I go, if it's effort, I'm going to take you out. Mental plays, whatever the case may be, but I don't want to see you not have the effort. If you don't know what you're doing because you haven't been out there, I'll accept that. But if it's physical and you're just not giving the effort, or you're too scared or nervous, then you can't be on the football field. And we had too many guys out there that were playing like that and just didn't want to tackle anybody. It was embarrassing.
No, Tim, the defense played soft. They backed up, let Oklahoma State have some underneath stuff. Meanwhile, over on special teams, we're watching them fair catch kickoffs in the field of play. I feel like the coaches told the guys, we're going to play soft. We're just going to be soft in this game. We're not going to attack them in special teams or defense. The offense is going to kind of be a muddled mess. Again, we can criticize the players, and a lot of the people we criticize, keep in mind, are 5th or 6th-year seniors, or in Will's case, a 4th-year senior that didn't look invested or engaged. But when you get this message from coaches, we're so bad in special teams, we're just not going to try in a lot of areas. Yeah, they blocked a field goal that just didn't add up to much. But I feel like this does indeed, as Chris Kleiman rightfully said after the game, comes down to the coaches, and it sits on their lap. And I think when he got back and watched the game again, he realized we failed our team and our team failed us. It starts with the coaches.
Yeah. I mean, I probably couldn't have said it better. Special teams, especially, it's almost like you're not watching K-State anymore. I mean, it's bizarre. It's bizarre to not, to not have a kicker that you can trust, to not have a return game that you can trust. I mean, it's just so ingrained, and you have to, I know I kind of said this before. What's changed recently? Who has left the staff? Who has joined the staff? What has that person changed? What has that person been allowed to change? Mm-hmm. Because when something is as ingrained as kind of this K-State special teams identity for decades now, to have this big of a slip in a year, I mean, I was fairly young, so I don't remember a lot of the specifics of the Ron Prince years, but even during that time, Sean was still on staff. Things were still kept on that side fairly in motion. So it's confusing, and I don't get it.
I just know what I see and what I experienced as a former player, and it's pretty simple. Not enough frontline starters are on special teams. They're worried about guys getting hurt. And you can see it out there when we were out there, and then not just the years that I played. There were frontline starters that were on the kickoff coverage. They were on kickoff return, punt return. There were lots of frontline starters that were on those units. Now, I'm not saying every guy, but minimum 7 guys of frontline starters were out there. That is not the case anymore. Nope. And it's not even necessarily too deep, I don't believe. I mean, it's guys a little ways down. Look, we're trying to win football games, people. Everybody, it's not participation. Everybody doesn't get to play. I'm sorry. That's just not the way that it works. You got to get some frontline guys out there. If you want to be special on special teams, then be special on special teams.
Were you guys going to get mad at me if I point out that KU had a punt return touchdown for the first time in 9 years with Sean Snyder on the staff and Bill Snyder in attendance?
I mean,
it's not
a coincidence.
It's not a coincidence that their punting, kicking, and holding has gotten drastically better, but I'd like to congratulate the coaches that coached the actual return game for doing a good job because he didn't do that at K-State.
He did not.
K-State had the blocked field goal. We got one good special teams play.
It was a beautiful block field goal. It was nice.
Marquis Siegel, baby.
I know. Well,
that was maybe the best point in the game.
I mean, did we move the ball an inch after that, though?
I don't think so. I don't recall. Let's take a little break now. And after the break, we're going to get into what's next for K-State as they head off to Texas Tech for the second straight road game, night game blackout, which is kind of weird. I suggested they wear all whites, which I know they won't, but what the hell? You can't blame the jinx when you just stunk so bad. And then we'll get into some of the other stuff that went on in the Big 12, including that KU win that was so convincing against the UCF program that has just gone in the crapper. And, of course, there was that game down in Dallas we'll probably talk about. It turned out it was pretty good. We'll be right back on The Insiders. For you watching, if you're watching right now, don't go anywhere because this is like nothing. We'll be back.
GoPowercat.com's PowerCat podcast continues after this short break.
Selling a little or a lot? Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. From the launch your online shop stage, to the first real-life store stage, all the way to the did we just hit 1 million orders stage. Shopify's here to help you grow. Whether you're selling scented soap or offering outdoor outfits, Shopify helps you sell everywhere. From their all-in-one e-commerce platform to their in-person POS system, wherever and whatever you're selling, Shopify's got you covered. Shopify helps you turn browsers into buyers with the internet's best converting checkout. 15% better on average compared to other leading commerce platforms. And sell more with less effort thanks to Shopify Magic, your AI-powered all-star. Shopify powers 10% of all e-commerce in the US. And Shopify is the global force behind Allbirds, Rothy's, and Brooklinen, and millions of other entrepreneurs of every size across 175 countries. Plus, Shopify's award-winning 24/7 help is there there to support your success every step of the way. Because businesses that grow, grow with Shopify. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/Odyssey Podcast, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Odyssey Podcast now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/Odyssey Podcast.
Welcome back to the PowerCat Podcast.
And we're back. It's like magic. Look, it was a bad day Friday for K-State football, but you get the extra day. You got your ass thoroughly chewed, from what I'm told, in the Veneer complex on Saturday. Coaches, players, everyone. I guess Chris Kleiman just let it go, man, and that's good. They needed that. But now you go to Texas Tech and Brien Hanley. All of a sudden, Texas Tech's playing better.
Yes, they are.
And maybe they never played poorly. They just caught some teams like Oregon's pretty darn good, and maybe they just didn't look good coming out of the gate. But this is a challenge. This was the road game I thought they would lose, not Oklahoma State. Right. Now they have to win it, don't they?
They do. And Texas Tech looked good. Now I know Baylor's awful, but Texas Tech looked good. I watched a lot of that game. They were the more physical football team, and they just battered Baylor. So K-State's going to have to get it together and play this game and turn it into a physical football game, I believe. They can win. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of things, and we were mad, and K-State played lousy, but they're still talented. They are still talented. That's the thing to remember. As bad as they played against Oklahoma State, they can flip it around with some hard work and good preparation and a good game plan. They can go to Texas Tech and win. And make no mistake, Tech is playing well. Turns out that loss at Wyoming is not so bad now. No. It's not so bad. No. So, Tech has got it figured out a little bit. And like you said, they caught some teams. I mean, they played Oregon is good, and they played them to 8. So, I mean, I think this again is a game that K-State can win. They just have to go down. I think they have to be the more physical football team, though. I think they just have to go down there, do what we do, play a lot of inside smash mouth. Yeah, we got to throw the ball to the outside, but you know what? If our receivers just aren't going to make it happen, then let's just do something different. Like I said, a good game plan and go down there and win a tough game because it's going to be tough.
Yeah, looking at the schedule ahead of the season, to me, there was 2 games that you probably circle on the calendar and say those are your toughest 2 games. It's at Texas and at Texas Tech. Yeah. And maybe we got away from that a couple weeks ago because we were like, well, maybe Texas Tech isn't going to be that tough of a game. I still think it's going to be. And then they looked really good last week. And we said Baylor's not great, but that game Waco, and they blew them out. And so this is going to be a really tough game, but it feels like K-State needs it because you hope that the State game is just a full and very rude wake-up call and that they have a get-right game. But if you want a get-right game, it doesn't feel like going to Lubbock is what you pick out of the bunch.
No, Tim, I assume you're going to Lubbock. Just a beautiful drive.
I'm flying. So,
wow.
Big time.
Yeah.
First class too, probably.
Well,
wow.
The best that MHK can offer. So.
Yep. Well, congratulations on that. My guys are driving because I'm a cheap ass.
I don't blame you.
And
if it were my money, I'd be driving. But
let's put it this way: if I was going, we'd be flying. But I'm not going, so they're driving.
I love that.
What a horrible boss. But Tim, they need to go down there and simply play pissed off. I don't care about the X's and O's. They need to be pissed off at themselves for what happened at Oklahoma State.
And you could tell the 3 guys that we got media wise after the game, Will Howard, Kobe Savage, and Austin Moore. There was a real quiet. I'm going to leave this room and punch a hole in the wall feeling to all 3 of those interviews. I have not seen anything that leads me to believe that, Chris Kleiman, given a week, can't get these guys to where they need to be. Can't rally a team. I mean, they've been down much worse than this, and have kind of found a way to kind of dig their way up in the past. I also wonder, speaking of Wyoming, does Chris Kleiman call his old boss and just say, hey, what did you see at Tech? What worked out at Craig Bowl? I mean, is that connection worth anything here? I'm curious.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
And how about Craig Bowl? He's kind of going to Wyoming.
Yeah,
you kind of thought maybe the old guy was just cruising into retirement, and here they go with a big win over Fresno State. And let's take a look around college football, and we got to start in Dallas with a great game. It really was.
Mm-hmm.
Texas and Oklahoma, it was an entertaining game. It was a pretty well-played game. And Oklahoma showed me what I needed to see to believe that they're for real, because I hadn't seen anything to really indicate that. You can't assume that from beating SMU or Cincinnati or Iowa State. Beating Texas, that stood out. I still think Texas is the better team, but I thought that's how Texas handles things. They knew they were the better team and didn't have to get it done. But Oklahoma's for real. They have one challenging game, at least that I know of, left on their schedule. It's Kansas. They could just run the table here, Brien Hanley, and be possibly the most unknown 12-0 team going into the postseason.
I believe it. Look, there's a lot of K-State fans still mad at Brent Venables. I told everybody before the season, I said, when he gets his guys in there and they buy into what he's doing, the guy knows how to coach football. Yep. Let's just call it what it is. The guy knows football. So Oklahoma, although they hadn't played anybody, they did bring out a lot of stuff that they hadn't shown, which I thought was going to be the case because, they hadn't played anybody. What's the reason to bring all this stuff out? They brought it out against Texas, man. And again, you're right, Fitz. Texas is better. Man for man, they have more players. They have better players. But again, it's Texas. And, you have those costly turnovers when you don't have to. And then OU had that goal line stand where 3 times in a row, you basically run the same play. I'm like, what are you doing on the goal line? I'm like, but even if you're going to run it a different way or do something different. Nah, we're just going to keep running it right here and see what can happen. It's just, I don't know. But OU, I think our biggest fears were answered on Saturday, that OU and Texas are far and away the best teams in the Big 12 conference. Far and away.
It feels like it's going to take something unexpected or special to keep it from being those two teams meeting again in Arlington. And I think that's worst case scenario. Big 12, that's their go.
Going into that,
come on down.
Yeah, going into that Oklahoma State game, if you're K-State, you're assuming you're going to win. And look, the media and the fans get to assume whatever they want. They have no impact on the outcome of the game. You're assuming there's going to be a win, and then you need Texas to beat Oklahoma to kind of, put you in a better position, even if you lose at Texas. The oddity of this, and this sounds absurd after watching Oklahoma State just outplay K-State when they're bad, but if K-State wins out, they're in the Big 12 championship now because of the loss for Texas. But that requires you not only to win all your games, but also go to Texas and win. Mm-hmm. But it does, Tim, offer you a talking point in the locker room. We still control our destiny. We didn't have this control last year. Mm-hmm. No. We didn't. We had to rely on someone beating Texas for us. Now we're that someone. We can do it. Mm-hmm. Does that play well, or is it just such a mess coming out of that? Let's just we got to worry about Tech and screw this all this big talk. There you win again.
I swear that it was fully charged.
Okay, maybe you just soak up a lot of light.
Maybe that could be true. That could be true. I am very white. No, I think that it is kind of a nice carrot, I guess, for this team, because they're to continue the horse metaphor, they're going to get whipped this week after their performance. They're going to feel their lessons are going to be learned. But to kind of be able to say, hey, everything that we want is still there for us to take. We have to go take it. We have to do what we know we need to do. But it's there.
Right. Mm-hmm.
We just have to take care of our business. Last week was unfortunate. We have learned so much from that. Let's use that and help it drive us through these next 7 weeks. And then get to where we want to. And then this will just be a hiccup on the road to a back-to-back appearances in a title game. Whether it works out like that, I have no idea. But it is definitely something that I think you bring up.
Glenn, as a backdrop to all of this, which probably magnifies the frustration of Kansas State fans, is that KU looked so good in beating let's just say it now, it's a bad UCF team.
Yeah.
They, in some ways, K-State exposed that awful run defense and inability to tackle. They've had injuries on top of that since playing K-State, and then losing to Baylor, which is awful themselves, and they still won at UCF. But Kansas looked put together. And I think that was a little unnerving for K-State fans to think that among all the games you have to win, you still got to go to Lawrence towards the end of the year, and that looks pretty daunting.
Yeah, if they played this weekend, I'd be willing to bet that K-State would be an underdog in that game. Oh,
absolutely.
They ran for 399 yards, guys. I mean, UCF can't tackle. They can't, and that's going to lose them a lot of football games this year. But Kansas realized that. Jason Bean completed 8 passes in the game, and they scored 51 points. I'd be interested to find out how many times has this team scored 51 points or more and completed 8 or less passes. Not many. I mean, that is crazy. They just ran it down their throats. And, Kansas looked really good. They have a 1-2 punch at running back. I thought that game might go that way because Devin Neal, but specifically to me, even Daniel Highshot just runs through guys. He runs through guys who can tackle. So I thought when he played UCF guys who can't tackle, it would be just not even fair. And that's exactly how it went. Kansas right now looks like the third best team in the conference probably right now. And I'm not saying that K-State can't compete for that spot or higher than that spot, but they looked really good. And now they go to Oklahoma State and they try to avoid the trap that K-State fell into, I guess.
Yeah, they've been warned. Brian, thoughts on KU?
KU's good.
Yeah.
First of all, KU's going to go beat Oklahoma State. They're going to go win that football game. And KU's good. And coming from me, Fitz, that is tough for me to say. That is tough for me to say. But KU's good. They got it figured out. I think they got to get their quarterback back if they have any chance of beating OU. Because they're not going to just be able to line up and run the ball and beat OU doing that. They're going to have to do it through the air some. However, it doesn't mean it's not possible. But KU's got a good football team. That's the thing. And KU's defense is what is better. Their defense is better. We talk all offensive numbers and they ran the ball. It's KU's defense that is going to win them even more football games this year. They're just a better team, man. They use the transfer portal to their advantage, like they should, like everybody should.
Yep.
And they're a good football team, man. There's not a whole lot else I can say about it because you lose your preseason Big 12 quarterback, and it doesn't look like they've really missed a beat. Now against Texas, that was one thing, but then you go and you run for 399 yards against somebody and complete 8 passes with your backup. When you would think all they are doing is stacking the box against you, it's just Kansas is a good football team, man. Yep. They are.
If you're watching on YouTube, no, you should not go back and screen record Brian saying Kansas is a good football team.
Don't do that.
And tweet that at him. That would be mean. You shouldn't do that. You definitely shouldn't tag him if you do that.
Can you send me instructions on how to do that? I feel like, and this isn't meant to discredit KU in any way because they're really playing well, but I feel like right now KU's following K-State through the landmines. They're through the minefield. Like they followed the path K-State set against UCF. Just run the ball. Just line up, be physical. And now because of that, they've seen that K-State did that and won. But then K-State went to Oklahoma State and thought, hey, we're a big physical badass football team, and stepped on a landmine. And now KU can avoid that at Oklahoma State. But I feel like Lance Leipold would have his team ready anyhow. But they're in a great position. They really are, Tim. It's impressive to see what he's done.
Yeah, it really is. The depth was the thing that people were still concerned wouldn't be to a Big 12 level, and that has not. It could still rear its head. There's still a lot of season left to play, but that has not been an issue yet for them, which is which is impressive. I mean, the transfer portal really is the great equalizer as far as teams kind of getting themselves to, competitive, and in KU's case now beyond competitive level. I mean, they had a couple of key pieces from the end of the Les Miles era and just kind of bolster and build around that. And, now they're a top 25 team.
And by the way, that loss in Austin, this might be a hot take. I stand by that. I'm not saying they would have won the game. That game goes a lot differently if either Jalen Daniels plays or if they know the week of that he was out.
Right.
They found out, I think, about 45 minutes to 90 minutes before kickoff that he couldn't go. And that's really late to find out you're changing your entire game plan to play with a different quarterback. And I know they got beat badly, 41-14, I think was the final. But if you watch that game, they're in it in the third quarter.
Yep. Yeah, it was late.
They pulled away late and they scored some garbage time touchdowns. They were in that game when they found out they were going to go with a completely different quarterback and game plan, 90 minutes to kickoff. If Jalen plays, or even if they knew that Jason was going to play all week, oh my gosh, I'm not saying they would have, but I think they would have had a chance to hang in all the way and win that game.
Well, they also panicked on that fourth down play. They should have punted the football in their own territory, and they went for it and fumbled. And I'm like, you got to punt the football. And so, they were in the game late into that football game. So
Lance Leipold and Jalen Daniels have a really incredible relationship. But right now, if I'm Lance Leipold, I'm almost tempted to name Jason Bean my starting quarterback. We're going to take this off the table. We're going to prepare with this guy because I feel like if Jalen Daniels is healthy, you can put him in and he's going to do his thing. But Jason Bean needs the game plan. You know what I mean? He needs the structure. He's a fine quarterback. He showed it on Saturday, but he's not the dynamic guy. But I'd be almost say, we're going to prepare with him. Because your back's unpredictable. He's the starter for now. If you're ready, let us know. I feel like they almost are at that point because this could continue to be a disruption in what's an otherwise really sound locker room.
And I wonder if that is happening behind closed doors.
Yeah.
Maybe they're not going to say that, but maybe that they haven't said much about Jalen, and they've just kind of said no update. And so I wonder if in the locker room they're saying, "Hey, Jason's the guy," unless we hear otherwise. For now.
Tim, do you think he has like highlights of him sitting on the bench on his Apple Watch necklace now?
Come on.
Sorry.
Oh, look, and there's me celebrating after that touchdown. And, look at me. I'm such a good teammate. Look at that.
Meanwhile, let's talk about, first of all, K-State plays TCU next week in Manhattan. If you forgot, K-State actually plays home games, apparently a month in between. But
they don't play afternoon games, though.
No, they don't. They do not play afternoon games. That'll be a 6 p.m. game at the Bill against a TCU team that just lost and looked awful at Iowa State. Brian, how the mighty have fallen. And I will say this, someone pointed out that really what's going on in the Big 12 right now is bad quarterback play. Outside of the Big Two, Texas and OU, they know who their quarterbacks are. They know what they're about. Everyone else has some uncertainty right now at quarterback, unless I'm missing someone. And that includes TCU that just hasn't gotten good quarterback play. When last year, it was all about the quarterback.
Yes. Yeah. TCU, look, everybody thought, and again, football people, I think, knew. I think real football people knew. TCU lost a ton from last year. You bring back 3 starters from a team. Who ever heard bringing back 3 starters and you're still going to be the 17th or whatever they were coming back? And I'm like, come on, man, what are we talking about? And they lost guys, NFL guys. They didn't just lose and a bunch of people graduated and, they were good college players. They've got guys that are playing in the NFL right now that were on their team last year. And I think people overlooked that point. Like, TCU had a team of pros. They were good. And they don't have that this year. And quarterback play, first of all, we got to talk about the coach. Because if you remember that Duggan was not the starter coming out of camp last year. So making that decision and basically the guy getting hurt to turn your season around, I'm like, what are we talking about here? It's just sheer luck that they lucked into what happened last year. But, man, you talk about just falling off a cliff. falling off backwards with no life-saving device at all. It was bad last week for TCU. It was bad.
But hey, at least, the controversy of bringing in Kendall Briles was worth it, though, right? It was worth it.
I was wondering who was going to say it, man. I was wondering who was going to say. I knew we wouldn't get out of here without that.
Oh, my goodness. Just brutal. They're terrible on offense. They are bad on offense, man.
Yeah, and we knew they weren't going to be what they were last year, but this is worse than we thought, I think. At least worse than I thought.
Oh, and this whole conference is such a muddled mess, but it has also proven to be what it's always been in the Big 12. You can't count on a damn thing.
It's fun. I think it's fun.
I like it.
It's like,
yeah, Glenn, I like
horrific and fun at the same time.
Yeah.
It's fun until it happens to you, right? Like you see it, and
Right.
you're like, wow, look at TCU go. And then you go to Stillwater on a Friday night and you're like, this sucks. I hate football, man. Sucks.
So true. Well, let's wrap up shop here. Does anyone have any final thoughts? Like Tim, you actually playing a home game in a week, which is I miss them. They just left town, and it's like a dog ran away.
I do miss them. I really was counting on an 11 o'clock kick because I just wanted to do stuff in the evening, and so
I know. I kind of agree.
now it's just like home away. It doesn't, I'm gonna be busy all day anyway.
I want to point out that remember last year Oklahoma was bitching a lot about all the 11 a.m. games. I think one of the great ironies is, and maybe this isn't factually true, but it's my observation that I think now SEC is getting the 11 a.m. games just in time to get Oklahoma into their fold. And the Big 12 apparently didn't get them anymore. It's crazy.
Hey, Fitz, I'll end us on a real wild card here. But you watched Sunday Night Football last night. The 49ers look like the best team in football. I don't know. Some people say it's Shanahan in the offense and his system. Other people say Brock Purdy looks really, really, really good. And I just wonder, how did Matt Campbell only win 7 games with that guy?
Yeah.
How? If he's, again, it could be Shanahan, but if he's that good, and then Breece Hall looks really good too, right? And so you're like, you keep in these Iowa State players, and it's probably good for recruiting that they go pro, unless those recruits say, yeah, they are really good in the pros. Why didn't you guys win your 6 bowl or anything?
Yeah, I mean, you go back to the year that they played for the championship, they had 9 wins, and they had a bunch of NFL guys.
Yes, they did.
They had an NFL quarterback, receiver, running back. Defensively, they had some studs.
Yep.
And that's what he got out of them. And I think the shine is off the Campbell penny. And that's fine with me. Boys, I appreciate it very much. This was a weird episode. The host didn't have the graphics up right. Glenn has been frozen in a position for most of the time. Tim fell into the dark. It's like medieval.
And Brian said something nice about KU. What is going on?
We got to stop. We're going to go away now. We appreciate everyone watching, whether it was live or on replay or listening our audio only version on our podcast network. I'm Fitz, and we will be back. I got to figure out where my right button is. We'll be back next week with another edition of The Insiders.
Thank you for listening to the PowerCat Podcast. Make sure you're subscribing to our show at Apple, Spotify, Amazon, or wherever you get your podcasts.
The PGA Tour returns to CBS for another season on a special day and time, this Friday at 5 Eastern, with defending champion Max Homa part of an outstanding field at the Farmers Insurance Open. Our live coverage begins Friday at 5 Eastern and continues Saturday at 4 on CBS and streaming on Paramount+.
Matt Ryan?
Did you know the NFL playoffs on CBS stream live on Paramount Plus?
I just want a frozen fudge bar.
Bet you didn't know Super Bowl 58 was in Vegas this year.
What about a Sunday?
Super Bowl Sunday on CBS streams live on Paramount Plus.
Seriously?
Would an NFL MVP live?
Former MVP. Can we at least get a selfie?
Of course.
I got your NFL playoffs on CBS and Super Bowl 58 streaming live on Paramount Plus.